I know there's been like some controversy recently about a certain topic, and the question is, I was just curious, what do you think? Does God need us? Does God need our mitzvahs? Does God need us to serve Him? How would you approach that?
God doesn't need anybody.
Okay.
God can take care of Himself. I always say, don't try to write a book. If I were God, I would do it this way. Because you don't want to be God. You don't want to have that responsibility. And guess what? He's doing just fine.
But I was just saying, you were just saying He needs a dwelling place or something.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
right. Now give me a moment. When we say He needs a dwelling place, we mean to say He chooses. God chooses. And to want a place because He wants us, human beings and Jews, to bring happiness through transforming negativity to positivity. He chooses that. He doesn't need it.
So He doesn't need a dwelling place?
No. He chooses a dwelling place. Why does He choose a dwelling place? Because there are different reasons brought in the Kabbalah, in the mystical writings. But the bottom line is because the idea of taking something that is negative, that is opposite to godliness, that opposes godliness, and transform that, that's the greatest pleasure God has and one has when you take a situation where it's really awful. And more than awful, it's disastrous. And it's really antithetical to godliness. And you transform that, that's the greatest high, where you take the black hole and you make it into light.
But you're saying He doesn't, that's not necessary to Him, that you're saying?
No, because I don't want to go into philosophical discussion right now, unless you want me to,
Yep.
but as soon as you say God needs something, it's a contradiction to God.
How so?
Because God is not only infinite, God is transcendent. Transcendent means there are no definitions, including the definition of needs. So there aren't not only is the definition of wants not something that is godly, but even a need is already a definition. In other words, let me say it this way: not only is the physical the vessel for godliness, but even the spiritual is not the vessel. The vessel for godliness is God. When He chooses to be in the physical, it's in the physical. When He chooses to be in the spiritual, meaning to say what we're looking for is transcendence. The essence of God is just go along with what He decides He wants. So he can decide He wants of you to pray now for 4 hours. That's what He wants of you right now. And anything else during this time is not what he needs and what He wants. But then 4 hours later, He says, I want you now to go out and put on film with people, to talk to people about Judaism, to help people do charitable acts of kindness and goodness. And at that time, if you sit and pray, you're not doing what He wants.
Something, are all those things necessary to Him, that I put on the tefillin, the black boxes, the phylacteries? Just
at the time when He wants you to do that, it's not necessary in the conventional English term that we use for necessary. The implication of the English word necessary means He won't be God without it.
So what does it mean?
It means He chooses. He puts Himself into that issue at the time.
So it's not essential, meaning, like,
again, it's not essential if the word essential means if you're defining essential as being essence stripped of limitations and definitions. But if you don't, this is a problem that we have between the English language and the philosophical concepts of God as presented in the Torah, in the Bible. It's a real issue, because to explain God in English, which we need to, right?
Right, that's the problem.
Yeah, it becomes very, you're limited by the definitions.
I'm saying you're making a distinction using the word choose.
Yeah.
Just to
Yeah,
be a
go ahead,
sounding
please.
board. Meaning, I'm God, and now I'm choosing that men over 13 years old who are Jewish should put on the tefillin, the black boxes, every morning when they pray.
Correct.
I don't have to choose that.
You have free will.
I have free will, but
Wait,
I'm God.
You're God. Oh,
but I'm choosing, and it's very important to me not only that they should put it on, but if you're a Chabad, Hasidic follower, you're going to go try to do with other people as much as possible.
yes,
But I could have chosen that shouldn't matter to me.
correct,
But yet I chose that it should matter to me.
correct.
So, what does that show about?
That means that I'm in control. God is in control. He's totally in control. Because if you can't choose, that means you are controlled by it, not you control it.
Right. But yet he did choose it. So where's that choice coming from?
That's coming from his essence.
Right. So that shows he's not in good. If it's coming from his, if he's saying that this is me, that putting on black boxes, if you're Jewish, is me, meaning it's essentially me. And now my.
But it's not only black boxes. Wait.
Right, it's a lot of stuff. We know.
But
that.
no, but besides a lot of stuff. Wait. What about when someone doesn't put on the black boxes?
Exactly.
Does it give you a chance to return and to pick yourself up? And absolutely. So if you're telling me that it's absolutely necessary, how can it be that if you don't do it, you get a second chance? You violate it.
Right. And the bigger question: what does it make a difference if you violate or don't do repentance if it's not really essential to God? He just chose it, but he could have chosen the other way. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Okay. So the answer is that he chooses himself because he is the creator.
Right, but that sort of ups the ante now. That he really doesn't have a choice not if it's essentially important to him.
But that's a choice that he makes.
So he could choose that it's not important to him?
Correct.
He could choose now that lighting Sabbath candles or eating matzah on Passover or putting on the tefillin, the black boxes, is not important.
Yes, he could choose that. He could choose that, but he chooses not to do that. And that's why, one second, that's why when a person doesn't put on the black boxes or light the Sabbath candles and do things like that, he says, I choose for you to be able to make up for it and actually even do it in a better way with more passion, because from where you're coming from, you realize your mistake and you go about it now with more energy. So what does that tell you? That tells you that you're tapping into a place in God that's beyond any definition. So that's why I say, if you mean the black boxes and the Sabbath candles and things like that as a definition, he transcends definitions.
He's even higher than the mitzvahs.
Yeah.
Meaning there's a place in him that they don't matter at all.
Right. Okay. This is a midrash. The midrash actually says, it's brought in Chassidus. Your question, what's the difference to God whether you slaughter an animal from the front or the back? You know what I'm saying? And what's the answer? The midrash says to refine us. So the way the Rebbe once explained it in a very important discourse, the Rebbe says what God wants is the dealing with the hardship and, dealing with the hardship. In other words, you're right, there's no difference what way, but somehow through the process of slaughtering, one way is considered easy and one way is considered not easy, and God wants the not easy way. Why? Because that shows you're working for Him. You're working for the cause. You're exerting effort. And exerting effort is where He has pleasure.
Right, but the danger of also what we're talking about is if we say that the mitzvahs, the commandments, are not essential to Him. So let's say somebody chooses not to do it. They're not essential to Him, and they're definitely not essential to me because I'm not interested,
right.
Let's say. So if He doesn't really care? Why should I?
That's why I say that saying not essential to him in English sounds awful. I mean, to say.
But you're saying he could have chosen otherwise. You're saying that it's not essential.
But he put himself into his choice.
What does that mean? He put himself into the choice. Could he have not have put himself into that choice? We said yes. Right. So this is the problem. Meaning, when you say usually essential, this is saying this is me, which seems to be sort of my understanding. I am God, your God. Anochi.
Yeah.
Ano nafshi. This is me. Meaning, I don't have the choice not to be me. That the Torah, mitzvahs, are essentially me. Meaning, I couldn't have chosen otherwise. Meaning, I'm fully invested, meaning this is 100% my essence, and it can't be any other way. And that's why...
It's all true when we accept that God has inserted himself in that definition that you just spoke about.
But that's not my definition.
But it is a definition. And God is beyond definitions.
But that's also a definition. To say that God's beyond.
No.
How's that not the biggest definition? God's beyond all definitions, which is the biggest
God
definition.
is the creator. In other words,
It's also a definition.
It's also a definition, and God's a creator. And I'm talking about in the realm of definitions. There's good, there's bad, there's the middle, there's positive, there's negative, ups and downs. Then and those are things that God created for humanity, for structure,
right,
for wholesomeness, for a way of life, for civility.
But are mitzvahs part of creation, or they're part of God? That's
so the answer is there's one aspect of mitzvahs that are part of creation, and there's one aspect of mitzvahs that is part of God.
Okay, so that part of God, that is mitzvahs that are part of God. I mean, what does it mean, part of God? Or like even we say that about a Jewish person, that he's literally a chelek, he's part of God himself. Mamish, literally.
Yeah.
So that you're defining the essence of God, that he is a Jew. And he's also a mitzvah, according to what you're saying, that part of the mitzvah, which is part of God.
Right.
So now we're defining God's essence.
No, we're defining that aspect of God that puts itself into the soul, the neshama, as you say, the part of God.
So he didn't fully put himself in.
You could say that.
Okay. So there's a part of God which is totally distant, beyond the Jew, beyond the mitzvah, beyond his desire to make a dwelling place, meaning this higher, mysterious, if you will,
yes,
essential part of him which cannot be
right, that's where tshuva, that's where returning to God comes from. So that's why even
that can only be affected. You're saying that essential part could be affected.
Yes.
Okay. So
I understand. It's like, can God create a rock that he himself can't pick up? Philosophically, it seems contradictory. But that's why I think we have to focus more on creator versus creation.
Right.
Even soul, you've learned to study this. Soul is a creation. It's a high creation, a sophisticated creation, but it's already a creation. Anything that is created is defined and limited. Limited. Creator is not limited.
But the soul's not a creation. The soul's literally part of it.
The soul, as the soul is within the body, is a creation.
The body is a creation, but the soul...
The soul in its pure... Right. Is
literally part of God.
Yeah.
From
yes, it says that it's elikus shenase nivra. It's right. Godliness that expresses its form in creation vis-a-vis the soul. Anyway.
Right. So, just going back to the part of God saying, like, sort of, I don't need to choose to have a dwelling place in this world, but yet I'm choosing it.
That's right.
So that choice is not coming from the world.
No.
Because there was no world.
Correct.
So the only place that it could be coming from, if I understand this principle in Hasidic philosophy, is that it's coming from God himself.
Correct.
So when he says, I didn't have to, meaning there's nothing influencing me other than me, which makes it the ultimate choice that he has to choose. Because if it's coming from him, that this desire for a dwelling place, which from my understanding again is a taiva atzmi, is an essential desire. I need to have a dwelling place in a physical world. And therefore I'm going to ask Jewish people who are in this world to have self-sacrifice, mesiras nefesh. If they tell you to bow down to that idol, according to Jewish law, Yared Val Yaver, you have to bow down to that idol because my desire is essential. It's not like, because the danger of what we were saying before makes it sound like God sitting in heaven says, should I have a dwelling place? Should I not have a dwelling place in the low world? Okay, fine, I'll put myself into it, but it's not my full self. And then the chutzpah almost is like, but you better sacrifice yourself and your family, Chana and her 7 sons, if they tell you to bow down to that idol. Whoa. It's not essential to you? So my understanding is the whole point of Hasidic philosophy, the whole revolution, if you will, is that this is God's essence. As if a taiva can kashin it. Meaning, you can't ask God himself why he chose it, because it's not coming from his seichel, it's coming from his essence, which means he absolutely had to choose it. Like Rabbi says in the Bechiras Noivas, it flows from his essence because, meaning, when a human being chooses, should I have chocolate or vanilla? That's not essentially you. You have options.
Yeah, no, you're triggered by the item.
You're triggered by the item. God's saying, I'm not triggered by the world or by the item. This is coming from me. Which makes it the ultimate lack of freedom of choice as we understand it. Because this is me. Right. So the way to define it now is free choice. It means you're free from having to make a choice.
Right.
I don't have to sit there and think, should I choose it or not? In the human experience, you can dilly-dally and say chocolate or vanilla because it's not essential.
Right.
In God's experience, this dwelling place has to happen. And I'm relying on each and every single person, like you said before, not only Jews, but non-Jews. They have their own ways. The 7 Ohad laws is this has to happen essentially, and it has to happen as fast as possible. Like God is saying, I'm dependent on you because if you're the ones making the dwelling place in the lower world has to make it, not me forcing it upon.
Right, not imposing it.
Right, so could God have chosen differently? That mitzvahs don't matter, or the souls don't? Of course not. It's God himself. Meaning this is me, and that's why, from my understanding, and sorry to go on a little tangent here, that's why Shavuos, which is coming up, is such an amazing holiday, and we stay up the whole night. Because God comes out and says, Anochi, I am God, your God. This, Anochi mi shanochi. Anochi, I'm giving you myself.
Vis-a-vis the commandments.
The taiva and the Torah and the mitzvahs and Jews and not, you're all infinitely necessary to make this dwelling place in this world. But if we think maybe for a second that it's not essential to God, or he could have chosen differently, like he says about the Jewish people, right, Yefshar, or whatever. It's impossible because we're so, like someone to say, oh, he's not my son. You can say that, but you're the father, and they're your child. Right. You're my God. We're so essentially connected. A yid nishtar vil. There's nothing you can do about it.
Nishtar ken.
Right. It's not even possible.
Right.
And where do we get that from? Because God says it to us to disassociate from you. So without Chabad Chassidus, people think that here's a good lifestyle. It's called Judaism, like any other self-help, and you'll have a good family life. You'll be meaningful. You'll get reward. You'll get punished if you don't do it. God wanted to do you a favor. Teva hatoiv lehetiv chesed olam. The Chabad philosophy said, this is not about me. We talk about bittul. Now think, God, whatever I can do to serve you, because this is essentially important to you. I'm here to serve, not be served.
Right.
Which is basically the problem with every religion. Every religion basically says, you want reward, you want salvation, you don't want to have eternal damnation, you want the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, follow this lifestyle. And in a certain sense, Judaism has been corrupted and polluted, the same thing. And there are plenty of Orthodox Jews, which will tell you, and not ashamed to say it, they serve God for the reward that's waiting in Olam Haba, Gan Eden, or God should be nice to them in this world, make them healthy and wealthy. And so are they serving anybody but themselves? No, it's completely narcissistic. So what does a chassid say? Mi li vashamayim. Ich will nicht dein Gan Eden. I don't want your garden. I just want you. I'm here for you, whatever you need. Am I going to get reward? It's not about me. It's about you. Like any good husband, it's not about me. It's about you. Like any good father, it's not about me.
Right.
So, but if we don't know that it's essential to God Himself, that it's optional, chas v'sholom, then it's optional to me. If it's optional to Him, it should be optional to me.
Right. Well said.
Is there anything incorrect about what I said?
No.
So you have rabbis who say, to say that God needs us, like we showed that clip, the very fact that I'm here, I didn't ask to be born, bar korchach atochai. So who needed me here? So my parents. And who needed them? My grandparents. And if you go all the way back to the Garden of Eden, Adam appears at 20 years old. So who needed Adam here? By very definition, God.
Absolutely. Yeah, I just want to add to all of that. It's, one can conclude from kind of your last concluding deduction that if you're not Chabad, like if you're not learning Chabad Hasidus, you're a failure. You're an outcast. You didn't say those words.
I'm saying it's not the ideal way of serving God.
Yeah, but we need to know that harbe drachim lamokim. There are many ways, and that everyone has to serve God with the best way, and they know, and to be open to understanding and hearing and learning what you shared.
But with all fairness, since I'm a child going to Chabad institutions, they told me a story that on the second day of Rosh Hashanah, the Baal Shem Tov went up to Mashiach, to the Heichel, and he asked Messiah, "When are you coming?" And the Messiah responded to him and saying, when your well springs, and the Baal Shem Tov apparently cried because he realized how long it would take. So Mashiach said, only I will be able to come, Emasai Kasimar, when your well springs are spread out to the whole world. Meaning there's something integral. Now I'm saying someone's not Chabad, but they're serving God because they realize how essential it is to serve God and what it means to serve God, that it really affects them essentially, that I'm not doing it for my reward. So you don't have to be a card-carrying Chabad member, but the intention is not to be served, right?
All right. So that's okay. What I wanted to conclude, that whatever they're doing, whatever you're doing, give some of that. Be selfless. Do it for the other. Bittul. Nullification, humility. In other words, so if you're not, like I was once in Meir Sharim and I met other Hasidim, and I was talking, I said, why don't you guys do it? The Chabadniks, they go out to the kibbutzim and they go and they share. And the guy was very honest. He says, if we went there, we would fail. Not only fail in our mission, it would affect our Jewishness. Because we weren't raised this way. We were raised in a bubble, in an insular, just, little Meir Sharim, a Geula, little, Hasidic, with strictness and all of that. And if we go out, we just lose ourselves.
They were raised religious.
Yeah.
And we were raised, it's not about you. If you're religious or not, some guy needs a favor.
That's right.
Will it affect me if I'm out? Can you stop thinking about yourself?
Right.
Like the guy who came, the college student who came to the Rebbe, and the famous story, and the Rebbe said, when you go back to your university, make sure that your friends put on tefillin. And he said, but Rebbe, I don't put on tefillin. And the Rebbe said, why should they suffer?
Yeah, exactly.
Meaning it's not about you. Stop thinking about how you're going to be exposed. And we learned from that. One thing from the Rebbe's leadership is not only will Yiddishkeit thrive in the community and the people that you meet, but it will thrive in yourself.
Correct. And that not only can, should be done by every person, and frankly by every non-Jew as well. This idea of giving up of yourself to help someone else is what you mentioned, the holiday of Shavuos, the giving of the Torah, the giving of the principles of life for all of humanity. And in that way, it's a global celebration.
But they have to see, meaning Chabad is not just, we love everyone and we're not insular. The question is why? It's based on a very refined philosophy that comes down and says that, you know why we're not focusing on ourselves? Because of God's not focusing on himself.
Right.
Like God says, it's not about you, and you have to give up all your taivas and your desires, and you have to skafia and break yourself. Because I break myself, meaning to come down to this world, to come down to Mount Sinai.
Right.
God's saying, it's not about me, it's about us.
Right.
He was Yachid, and he desperately needs to be Echad, to have us. And not only us, 7 billion human beings, Chasidim and 7 Noah had laws. So God is the ultimate vulnerable and says, it's not about me. That's why he had to contract. What is Tzimtzum? He says, okay, I can do this. I can contract myself. It's not about me. It's not about me coming down to this world, until eventually he gave the Torah on Mount Sinai, and we still can't get over it 3,334 years later. And we stay up the whole night. When do you stay up the whole night? You don't think about, oh gosh, it's 3 o'clock, it's 4 o'clock. You don't even look at the clock.
You're excited.
You're excited about the magnitude of what God revealed himself. That's why it's called a revelation, exposing his vulnerability, how it's not optional, it's essential. And every mitzvah that we do, and when we put on tefillin with somebody and give out Shabbos candles, you're giving literally a piece of God himself.
Yes.
Wow, thank you. Is there a Niggun that we could sing? Like, I love your Niggun. I watch all them on your YouTube channel. Is there a favorite Niggun? Is something that has to do with Shavuos before my battery dies?
No, there is one, but it's a little, I'm not sure
Yeah, nothing too complex. Maybe.
Hilkus Tnua.
No, yeah.
Yeah,
that
one?
That one? Yeah, I like that one. I heard that. It was very moving as I was driving.
Again. Oh, yinai na 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 da ya ya la dai do yinai na yo ayidai ya 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 dai la dai da ya ya yidai yinai na ra ra la roi da ya ya yidai yinai na ra ra la dai. That's why it's called a tnua. It's a movement. It's not like an entire Niggun. But in this kind of one stanza movement, it expresses, like the realization, like And that's why you call it, oh, yeah, that the ay is like when you start realizing what's going on here, that it's about God, not about ourselves, then the voice and the sound is very therapeutic, it's very uplifting, although it comes through that ay is like, I got it.
Essence, atmos.
Yeah, I got it. And once I get it, the rest is just a small change.
Oh man, thank you.
You're welcome.
And that, like, I felt like climbing through the Niggun, which is what it's, I guess, what
Yeah.
to do, and that's why it's called a movement, because it moves you hopefully all the way to the truth, which is Asmos Amos.
Right,
the essence of God.
the essence.
So I've had on to you before Shavuos.
Yeah.
We said you should be the Kabul, the Torah, b'simcha u'b'pnimis. And I guess that's everything we just spoke about.
Yeah, well, simchas.
Once you realize how essential everything is to Him, that makes you joy.
Yeah,
and you're not thinking about yourself.
Exactly. I heard a Rabbi Deitch in Jerusalem speaking to a large group of Hasidim, and they were seekers. They were, and he says, if I get up in the morning and I think about myself and my family and my kids and this and that, I get something that's very sad. We all have issues. I don't care how long or not long your beard is, Everyone has issues. But when I don't think about myself and I think about the other, I get happy.
And maybe if we're a reflection of God, we're made in His image, maybe He says the same thing every morning.
Absolutely. Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.